Alright, if you don't know what you're doing, that's okay. This is pretty darn simple. Follow right along. I'll show you just what you need to do and hopefully give you a few tips along the way. Show you how to do this right. I'm Jordy Buck, and this is Michigan Sharpshooters, helping you become well regulated so together we can preserve our freedoms. So, cleaning a shotgun and oiling it. I'm going to start with my single shot here. This is 20 gauge single shot. Just making sure it's unloaded. I got my brass rod. This is a skinny rod though, rifle pistol rod, so I've got to have the adapter for the shotgun, which is just a fatter adapter to take the larger cleaning accessories. First thing I'm going to grab is the brass brush. This one's copper. Just the cleaning brush, the Boar brush. Screw it in there. Now this is a 20 gauge Boar brush for the 20 gauge shotgun. For my 12 gauge here, I got to use a 12 gauge brush. A little bit of my solvent. This is Boar cleaner or a gun cleaner. It's a combination metal remover powder solvent. Just put a little bit of that on the brush. I don't need much, so I'm going to tap off the excess. I bent that brush last time a little bit. Yeah, they bend sometimes. Now, this rod, it's actually a bit too short because my buddy broke a link in it. And now he gives me a new rod. So I can't go all the way to the bottom of the gun, which doesn't pose any problem at all because I can put that through the bore down in the barrel from both directions and I can still get the whole thing clean. So it goes 3/4 of the way as it is. Anyways, I'm just going to scrub that in and out a couple times. Try to avoid flinging the gun cleaning solution into my cup of coffee. Here, it'll be easier if I rest the butt of the gun on the ground so it's a little steady. Now with the Boar brush and with the Boar Mop, or a jag if it's a tight fitting style jag, when you're going to put it in the bore at first, don't do it from way up here. You're probably going to kind of get it started and you're likely to end up bending the rod as you shove it in, or bending the wire holding the brush down here. Then you can snap the whole thing. Don't do that. Just get it started nice and easy. Once it's started in, then I can shove it all the way in one stroke. Pull it out. Now I'm going to hold, you don't need to pull it all the way out. I want to go all the way down and partially out a couple times. That should do it. And now I got to go to this one through the other side. I always like how these single shots take apart. It's just so simple. Well, I'm going to do it from the other end. Now, if my rod was long enough to go all the way through, I wouldn't have to do it this way. Alright, and I'm going to use that brush to scrub the chamber a little bit, the part that the shotgun shell sits in. So I got to kind of move it around in there a little bit. The chamber is wider than the brush is generally, so it just requires a little bit more thought while I'm cleaning it out. Now, I've got my cleaner down there, loosened up all the lead buildup that was in there, if any. Probably not much, probably just a little bit. And I loosened up all the burned powder residue and all that junk out of there. So now I'm going to keep my brush on. Here's one of my tricks. A lot of guys at this point go to the cleaning jag with the cleaning patch on it. Not me. I need just a little scrap here. That'll do it. Wrap my cleaning patch around the brush, and I'm going to shove that back through from both sides because my rod's too short to do just from one side. There we go. Now that's going to pick up an awful lot of black. Now, turn the patch over and use the other side. Got a little more black out of it that time. I will say it's easier if you're using white patches or even just an off-white because you can see the black so much more. It can scare you sometimes. When you think it's clean, you run a white patch down, you see there's still more black. You thought it was clean. Yeah. Alright, that's doing pretty good. And that's probably about good, but I'm going to put one more patch like that through it. Put just a, there it is, just a dab more cleaner on this patch. Now this cleaner is my favorite and the best all-around gun cleaner. Best at removing both copper and lead fouling and the burned gunpowder residues out of a barrel. Not the best at removing powder residue and not the best at removing the metal, but it's the best 2-in-1. And honestly, as far as the powder removal, it does really, really good. Honestly, it might really be about the best. The Happy's No. 9 cleaner has a kerosene cleaning base to it, as well as several different types of alcohols and ammonia, which is why the ammonia cleans out the metals. That's why it's such a good metal cleaner. The alcohol helps to clean out some of the different types of powder residues, and helps to clean out old, that was pretty clean there, helps to clean out any old oils and grease that were in the barrel. And the kerosene cuts and loosens any types of oils or greases and really cuts the carbon buildup out of the barrel, which is your burnt powder residue. So Happy's No. 9 is the only cleaner I care to ever use. It also happens to be the cheapest, so I like cheapest and most effective. It's great. I like that coffee. Ooh. Now we've got that cleaned up. I'm going to now run my cleaning jag down it. I need to oil the bore now. Now that Happy's has some oil in it because it's kerosene base, but it's not a lot of oil. And it's going to dry out pretty soon. I'm going to take my cleaning patch and just a dry patch, I'm going to saturate it heavily with oil. Any gun oil, I'm using 3-in-1, which is a machine oil. Now I'm going to just rub the patch kind of around, make sure the oil is well distributed across the patch. Alright, put the jag on the rod. Cleaning jag, by the way, what they call a modern jag is just a brass little rod with a slit down the middle so I can stick a patch in it. Whereas the old-fashioned traditional real jag back in the days of muskets was a solid hunk of brass with jagged edges, which is why it was a jag or a jagged, what they called it at the time. So slide the patch just halfway through the jag. It sticks out like that. I'm going to put it in and just kind of twirl it around. If you don't twirl it well, you don't always get a lot of good oil coat in the bore because it doesn't really fit tightly. Especially if it's a little cooler in the room, or you're doing this out at hunting camp and it's a cold day. The oil's a lot thicker, it doesn't spread very thin, so you've got to work at it more to get oil evenly across the inside of the barrel, all coated in that bore. And it's not the warmest in here today, it's kind of a chilly day out. So I'm just making sure it's all well oiled. That turning really helps, spinning the rod on these shotguns. Now we've got to oil the outside of the gun. So the barrel up and down. That looks pretty good, nice even coat. I'm watching to make sure that the patch still has enough oil coming off of it. If I can wipe it down on the metal and I see oil coming off on the metal, there's still enough oil. Okay. I love these old single shot shotguns. One day I'm going to get a whole big collection of just classic, cheaper and single shot shotguns. I want all the New England firearms, I want all the old Savage ones. Mossberg made them back in the day. I want some of those. I just like them. They're just neat, cool, super simple. Now on the single shot, there's not a whole lot of technical space in here to get cleaned up. Make sure there's no grit on the main pin in here, this hinge pin that the barrel goes down. I don't see any grit there. And it's not full of dirt. No. I'm going to pull the hammer back and just check down in. There's a gap in front of the hammer now. Just make sure it doesn't look like it's full of dirt. This one should be pretty clean. Yep. If it is got some dirt in it, Q-tips are awesome for that. Just a Q-tip with just a tiny, lightest bit of like an oil, or even just a little bit of little moisture on there to attract the dirt, and just kind of stick it down there and just clear out the dirt. Like that. Now, release the hammer down and put this puppy together. The simplicity of these things is just incredible. I really like that. If I line it up proper, that is. There you go. Cleaned and oiled, ready to put in the gun safe and store it for several months or even until next hunting season. Now, let's move on to the pump shotgun. It's a much more common shotgun, something like the Remington 870, the Mossberg 500. You pump, you get multiple shots, more fun at the range because you can shoot more without reloading as much. Clean the bore the same as I did on the first gun. The only difference is because this one was a 12 gauge, I'd use a 12 gauge brush and a 12 gauge mop, a little bit bigger tools on the end. Now, wiping the oil down just the same. Any exposed metals. See, now my patch is starting to dry out. It needs a little more oil on it. 3-in-1 oil. It's a fine quality oil. It's a classic machining oil. Used to be the best there was. It's not technically the best and cleanest there is today, but there never has really been much of a problem with it. Long-term storage, 3-in-1 can get a little gooey sometimes, thicken up a little bit. One of the reasons why, if you have a gun that's been in storage for a year or more, take it out, you want to clean the barrel before you go shooting or take it out hunting. You could have some old, congealed up, somewhat dried out oils that is just kind of stuck in the barrel. If you have a rifle, they stick down in the rifling and attract dust and dirt and grime in there, cause problems. So clean the barrel out if your gun's been in storage. Shucks, clean the barrel and trigger system to make sure the trigger's clean. Now I'm going to open this up. I'm going to just wipe a little oil up here. Okay. For this shotgun, to open it up, I have to clean this area out too. So I'm going to grab me just a small patch, dip it in a little cleaner, and give a wipe in here. Wipe down everything I can see that has a little dark color on it. Has that darker black powder residue on it. A little bit up in here. Pretty good. This thing's pretty well cleaned right now. Not too bad. Now with the pump shotgun and the semi-auto, there's a lot of little nooks and crevices and crannies. Go for the Q-tips again. Q-tips are great. I use Q-tips a lot cleaning my guns. There's a little spot right there. That always gets dirt stuck in it on my shotgun. A little hard spot to clean. It gets a lot of sand in it. The sand falls out and gets into other crud. Clean guns are accurate guns, much more dependable. Here at Michigan Sharpshooters, we want all your guns to be as dependable and accurate as possible for as long as possible. So keep them puppies clean. Some of you guys might get some flashbacks to your old drill sergeant. Keep that gun clean. But it's a big deal. Helps your guns to last longer, to shoot better, have less malfunctions and failure problems. There we go, that's pretty good. Now with the semi-autos and the pumps, with all the moving parts, here's one of the tests I like to do to see how clean it is. Just slowly go up and down. And I'm listening. What I'm listening for is to hear if it sounds gritty as I move any of it down. Not too bad. Let's see. There you go. All the way down. That's a clean, nice, clean, smooth action pump. Push the release and it goes all the way down on its own. That's smooth. I'm also going to pull the trigger and just kind of feel it a little bit. Okay, don't feel any grit or anything in it. No, nice and clean trigger. If it was real dirty, you could hear like a gritty, sandy. You can hear it, basically all the sand and dirt in there kind of grinding as you pull the trigger and the parts are rubbing against each other. That means it's really time to clean the trigger. Alright, so we got both of these guys cleaned up. Your pump shotgun, which cleans, the pump cleans the same way as any semi-auto does. The single shots, oh man, I like those things. They're the easiest to clean. They're clean real nice and simple. Nothing too tricky about them. I mean, there's nothing hard at all here about what we're doing. Now, I've got, here's one tool that I don't use too much, is the Boar Mop. We can use the Boar Mop. I'll show you how it goes. I don't often use it. I do a lot of times when I'm out, if I'm out at a multi-day hunting camp or sort of thing, I'll bring a Boar Mop because then I don't really have to use patches in the barrel very much. To use the Boar Mop, this is after I've run my brush full of cleaning solution down a few times. The Boar Mop takes the place of the patch, but the Boar Mop gets really dirty and so you have to wash it out every now and then. I don't like to use it when I'm home. I just use patches when I'm home and throw them away. But when I'm out hunting or camping for a while, I'll bring the Boar Mop. So I've run the brush down, saturated with cleaner a couple times up and down. Now I take the Boar Mop and you just once or twice, and that'll pull every, just once or twice through. We'll pull every scrap of dirt and grime and filth right out of that barrel. The only thing is, with the Boar Mops, you got to clean them once in a while. Eventually, that mop will get so dirty that it's no longer going to clean your gun. It's just going to leave extra dirt on your gun. So you clean these by scrubbing them good. Just scrub them by hand with some hot soapy water. Rinse them nice and hot and let them dry. Or, if your wife's not paying attention, throw it in a sock, tie the sock up, and toss it in the wash. It comes out nice and clean. Just don't tell your wife because they don't like that sort of thing. Alright, any gun oils work for oiling your guns. I use a 3-in-1 a lot of times. I also have a Hoppy's gun oil, which is about the best you can get for long-term storage and rust prevention. But 3-in-1 oil, it's a fine oil for putting on the outside of your gun. I don't really like to use it on the trigger system because it can gum up a little bit and get a little dirty with time. But on anything just for rust prevention, putting it on the outside of the gun, 3-in-1 is your cheapest, best solution. Hoppy's gun cleaner, Hoppy's number 9, comes in the big old pint bottles and down to little bitty 2-ounce bottles. You can get whatever size you want. I get the big ones. They last a long time. And I just put them in smaller bottles. Nothing too tricky here about cleaning shotguns and oiling them. Just remember, clean it and oil it after every use. If you haven't used it in a while, you get your shotgun out of storage, you're going to get ready for hunting season. First thing you do, clean the gun. Clean down through the barrel, make sure it's nice and cleaned out from the old oil that's probably starting to gel up, gum up and dry out a little bit. Check the trigger system. If it's dirty, clean it out, or at least spray it with an aerosol cleaner, which is great for that type of use. Clean your guns often. Wipe them down once in a while, scrub them once in a while. Don't let them get too dirty. They'll stay much more dependable for you in the long run. Well, thanks for watching Michigan Sharpshooters. I hope you check out some of our other videos, and I hope you found this one useful. Bye now.